As the world mourns Pope Francis, history's most secretive transfer of power begins. White smoke, the path to a new pope, guides you through this momentous transition. We explain exactly what happens next, leading to the dramatic conclave vote. Learn how each ritual unfolds, what each tradition means, and why these ancient ceremonies still matter today. Follow along as the throne of St. Peter stands empty and a new chapter in church history begins. White Smoke, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey folks, Garrett Fisher here. I need to tell you about this absolutely mind-blowing podcast, Acting President, that's been keeping me up at night. It's about James Bennett, a former governor starring in a hit Sunday night TV show about overthrowing the government, and then his actual former chief of staff approaches him to do it for real. The line between fiction and reality completely disappears when these course correction rallies start popping up everywhere. Is it brilliant marketing or something more sinister? The parallels are insane. Trust me, this is the political thriller you didn't know you needed in your life. Acting President, available now wherever you find podcasts.
Calaroga Shark Media.
Before the vast throngs of mourners lined up for a fleeting glimpse of Pope Francis's body, an elderly nun stood in solitary vigil before the Pontiff's coffin, offering a deeply personal farewell to someone who had been more than just her spiritual leader. Video footage captured these poignant final moments as Sister Geneviève Janangro, wearing a simple blue veil over her silver hair, stood alone in grief before her longtime friend. Her face etched with emotion, she wept openly, occasionally raising a hand to wipe away tears. This is White Smoke, the path to a new pope. Sister Geneviève belongs to the Little Sisters of Jesus, a Catholic religious community, and her connection with the Pontiff dated back to his years as Bishop of Buenos Aires. Their friendship had begun under extraordinary circumstances. She had written a letter criticizing the church for failing to send high-ranking clergy to the funeral of her aunt, also a nun, who had disappeared during Argentina's military dictatorship in the 1970s and was later found deceased. In a video shared by her religious order, Sister Geneviève revealed that then Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio, the future Pope Francis, had responded to her critical letter with remarkable compassion. Telephoning her personally on the very evening he received it, an early glimpse of the direct pastoral approach that would later characterize his papacy. Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re was the primary celebrant of Pope Francis's funeral on Saturday. As part of his homily, he said, "The final image we have of him, which will remain etched in our memory, is that of last Sunday, Easter Sunday, when Pope Francis, despite his serious health problems, wanted to give us his blessing from the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica. He then came down to this square to greet the large crowd gathered for the Easter Mass while riding in the open-top Pope-mobile. With our prayers, we now entrust the soul of our beloved Pontiff to God, that he may grant him eternal happiness in the bright and glorious gaze of his immense love." We are enlightened and guided by the passage of the Gospel, in which the very voice of Christ resounded, asking the first of the apostles, "Peter, do you love me more than these?" Peter's answer was prompt and sincere. "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus then entrusted him with the great mission, "Feed my sheep." This will be the constant task of Peter and his successors, a service of love in the footsteps of Christ, our Master and Lord, who came not to be served but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. Despite his frailty and suffering towards the end, Pope Francis chose to follow this path of self-giving until the last day of his earthly life. He followed in the footsteps of his Lord, the Good Shepherd, who loved his sheep to the point of giving his life for them, and he did so with strength and serenity. Close to his flock, the Church of God, mindful of the words of Jesus quoted by the Apostle Paul, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." Pope Francis often broke from tradition during his papacy, yet the music at his funeral mass honoured ancient custom, while composers across the centuries, from Palestrina to Mozart to Andrew Lloyd Webber, have created elaborate settings of the Roman Catholic liturgy. Long-standing tradition dictates that a papal funeral mass be sung primarily in Gregorian chant. This musical form, also known as plainsong or plain chant, has served as the Church's official musical language for over 1,000 years. Austere, sombre, unaccompanied, and monophonic, with all voices singing the same melodic line rather than the complexity of polyphony. James D. Wetzel, music director at the Church of St. Vincent Ferrer in Manhattan, explained to the New York Times, "For truly solemn occasions, the best way to express the continuity of the Church's musical tradition is just to have simple chant." The Church promotes the golden age of Renaissance polyphony, Mozart, Duruflé, modern settings, but pride of place is given to chant. Throughout Francis's funeral, the central components of the Requiem Mass, the opening introit, Requiem Aeternam Dona Eis, Domine, Kyrie, Sanctus, and Agnus Dei, along with sections including the Litany of Saints' names, were chanted in Latin by the Sistine Chapel Choir, the Pope's personal vocal ensemble. While other state religious services, such as Queen Elizabeth II's funeral or King Charles III's coronation, featured virtuosic musical programs designed to inspire awe, the plainchant melodies at Francis's funeral would be familiar to practicing Catholics, their sober, unadorned style aligning with his simplification of elaborate papal funeral rites.
You can get this podcast completely ad-free right now. If you're on Apple, just click the banner that says Uninterrupted Listening, and you'll get your first month free. If you use Spotify or other podcast players, go to calaroga.com/plus. It's just $5 a month, and you'll get access to over 20 premium shows with no interruptions. Binge listen to new series like the political thriller Acting President, Signal Lost, where military secrets land on the wrong phone, and Pager Protocol, the thriller about exploding pagers in the wrong hands. Plus, enjoy daily shows like Palace Intrigue about the royal family, daily comedy news, and 5 daily trivia questions to test your knowledge, and White Smoke, taking you behind the scenes at what's happening right now at the Vatican. You also get all our hot shows like 5 Good News Stories. Enjoy your favorite content without any ad breaks. Remember, Apple users click the Uninterrupted Listening banner for your free first month, and everyone else head to calaroga.com/plus. Get ad-free listening today.
Pope Francis's doctor shared details about the 88-year-old pontiff's final hours, including why Francis wasn't transported to the hospital after falling into a coma. Francis, who had recently been hospitalized for 38 days after suffering from double pneumonia before his death on Monday, April 21st, was still in recovery when he surprised the world by arriving in St. Peter's Square to give his Easter blessing the day before he died. Speaking with Italian newspaper Corriere della Sera, Dr. Sergio Alfieri, who oversaw the pontiff's inpatient treatment and the recommended 2-month recovery following his release on March 23rd, recalled seeing Francis after lunch on Saturday, April 19th. Dr. Alfieri received an urgent call on Monday at 5:30 a.m. local time and reached the Pope's side 20 minutes later. When he entered the Pope's room, Francis's eyes were open, but he didn't respond to any stimuli, not even painful ones. The doctor realized Francis was in a coma and determined that taking him to the hospital would have been futile as he was in danger of dying during transport. 2 hours later, at 7:35 a.m., the Pope died from what the Vatican described as a cerebral stroke that led to a coma and irreversible cardiocirculatory collapse. Dr. Alfieri told La Repubblica he died without suffering at home. We'll continue to have daily updates for the foreseeable future. Please join us every Sunday for our regularly scheduled episode of White Smoke, The Path to a New Pope, where we explore humanity's most elaborate and secretive transfer of power. White Smoke is a production of Calaroga Shark Media. Executive producers John McDermott and Mark Francis.